So you may be on different social media outlets. For example, here at Whirlwind Family Farm, we're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we're on X. And one of the things I have noticed about social media, especially on Facebook, is that ever so often it will send a look back in time. A year ago, you were doing this. A year ago, this happened. And it's a great feature to be able to remember things, trips, or family members. It's a cool feature, except when it comes to a garden or a market garden or farm. And I'll tell you why. Sometimes when I get those feeds that come back to me, and maybe it is my radishes, or maybe it is my green beans, and it will show how the growth looked at that time, which may be late March or early April. And I always think, gosh, that was doing much better than mine are doing right now. Mine are not as far along as they were then. They haven't reached maturity as quickly. So sometimes it can be a little discouraging when those pictures pop up. But I'm here to tell you, if you have a garden or a market garden or a farm, as you know, no 2 years can be exactly the same. And I will tell you, I had a very wise, older, retired farmer one time as he was walking on this market garden. And he said, one thing I want you to remember is that no 2 years are the same. And he is exactly right. Because years that I've had great harvest, say with radishes or with turnips, there's been other crops such as squash that have been devastated by insects. And no 2 years were the same. And there have been years where I've had virtually no insect issues with certain of my crops or vegetables, and other years where they have just been devastated. So no 2 years are the same. And I'll give you the perfect example this season is that in the past, here by the time we got to early November, I had very few peppers left, especially the jalapenos. Because this time last year, we had already had our first frost. And as this is being filmed or videoed, here on November 5th, we have not had a frost. It is cool this morning, overcast. As you can see, I have my long sleeve shirt on here in zone 8, which is typically a warm zone. We haven't had that frost yet. And because of it, as I'm walking alongside, as you can see here to my left, which are jalapenos, and they are absolutely thriving in this weather because we have been warm, consistently warm, all the way into the early part of November. Now, if I would have looked back at pictures from last season or the season before, you would have seen jalapenos that were already done because we had a frost. They would have been killed back, and it would have been time either just to leave them there as ground cover or go ahead and pull them. This year, they're still producing. So the point I'm trying to tell you, if you have a small garden or a market garden, or if you're doing large monocrop, remember, no 2 years, no 2 seasons are the same. And that kind of makes it interesting, and that's one of the challenges and one of the cool things about having a garden is that there can be years of great harvest and years where it's going to be more challenging. So the reason I make this video is no 2 years are the same and no garden is going to be perfect. So when you run into those challenges, know that it's just part of it, and it's one of those things that will happen. So if you do have those pictures that pop up on Facebook and you look at your garden from a year ago and it looked far better that year than it did this year, it may be just that your garden hadn't reached that point yet. It may be a matter of a couple more weeks and it'll be there. It's just that that year stayed colder longer, or maybe you had heat that was far hotter in the season than it was last year. There's a lot of factors. Not to mention there can be hail and high wind, and I hope nobody has to deal with that. So we hope we always get something out of our garden as we can pass it along to you. Things that we go through, things that we've been through, and we can pass along to help you in your garden. So we're going to have other videos. There'll be one in this corner that should be suggested from YouTube, and there'll be one in this corner that should be our last. We have a lot of good content. We hope you'll continue to check out our content, and it takes you further along in your gardening process. So blessings over you, your family, your garden, your harvest. talk to you soon from Whirlwind Family Farm.